Good evening, everybody. I'd like to go ahead and call the City Council meeting to order on Monday, July the 16th, 2018. I see John Allendorfer is here from the Senior Advisory Board. John, would you like to come up and lead us in tonight's Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. City Clerk, may we have tonight's roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Heilman. Here. Councilmember Horvath.
Here.
Councilmember Meister.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico.
Yes.
Mayor Duran.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All are present. Ms. City Attorney, may we have a report from tonight's closed session, please?
Yes, good evening. The City Council convened a closed session tonight at 6 p.m. to discuss one matter with outside counsel on the posted agenda and took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, approval of tonight's agenda. Let me ask staff first. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda from staff? No changes from staff. Any of my colleagues wish to make any amendments to the agenda? Councilmember Horvath?
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to try adding items 5A and B to consent.
5A and B are loan payoffs at 1155 North Detroit and a loan at 980 Palm. Is there any objection to moving 5A and B to consent tonight?
And
Seeing no objection, we'll add them.
And I'd like to ask that we pull item 2K.
And pulling item 2K for further discussion, Smart City Public Safety Pilot Project Update. Okay. Councilmember Meister, any changes? No. Councilmember Heilman?
I'd like to pull 2U.
Pulling item 2U, which is a code of ethics for consultants, contractors, and service on nonprofit boards of directors for further discussion. Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico, any changes? And I have no changes. So adding 5A and 5B to the consent calendar and pulling items 2K and 2U for further discussion. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Horvath, seconded by D'Amico. All those in favor indicate with an aye. The agenda is approved, 5-0. With that, we'll now go to adjournment requests. Councilmember Heilman, any adjournment requests this evening? Councilmember Horvath?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Simon Schenk. Simon is the father of our West Hollywood community member and former Commissioner Heidi Schenk. He was a pharmacist, business owner, and philanthropist, a generous, smart, and loving man who raised 3 daughters to be strong, independent women and feminists themselves. He was a vocal LGBTQ advocate and an active voice fighting in socioeconomic justice for all. He is survived by his wife, Vicky, with whom he was married for 62 years, and his 3 daughters, Wendy, Jody, and Heidi, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. We extend our condolences to the Schenk family. And I'd also like to adjourn tonight in memory of Richard Siegel. Richard was the husband of Rabbi Laura Geller of Temple Emmanuel in Beverly Hills. He's an educator who advocated for Jewish culture and arts and co-edited the seminal Jewish catalog series of guides to do-it-yourself Judaism. He was the director emeritus of the Zellico School of Jewish Nonprofit Management at Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in Los Angeles, and was committed to strengthening professional education, enhancing Jewish culture, and advancing contemporary Jewish identity formation. And I am happy to report there were no military deaths since our last meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Without objection and with deep condolences. Councilmember Meister, any? Mayor Pro Tem, any? And I have none tonight. All right, then we will now go to presentations. The first presentation this evening, Councilmember Meister.
Thank you, Mayor. July is Parks and Recreation Month. Parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout the country, including the city of West Hollywood. Our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. Parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. Parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community and can improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And the City of West Hollywood recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources for the children, adults, and pets that make up our community. And I was wondering if Steve Campbell could come up. We'd like to present this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I just want to start by saying thank you for your continued support of Parks and Recreation Services and for making it possible by providing the resources over the years for this dynamic group of young recreation professionals to provide the diverse programming and special events and all of the things that make this community what it is. July is traditionally the month that agencies across the nation come together and urge the communities to come out and enjoy a park and to see what's going on out there and to do something active and get busy and be part of the community and make it what we all strive for. We have a couple of things coming up. Movies in the Park is a free event. July 21st, we're offering the hit movie Coco, and that'll be in Plummer Park. For the seniors, we also have the Hollywood Nights Senior Dance. That's to be held on Saturday, July 28th in Fiesta Hall. And for the younger members of the community, we're also offering 2 sessions of Splash Camp, which is a week-long fun-filled activity for, I think, ages groups 5 to 13, somewhere in that range. For information on how to register or to just find out what's going on in the parks, please visit www.weho.org/recreation or drop us an email at recreation@weho.org or just reach out the old-fashioned way and give us a call at 323-848-6308. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you to all of our Parks and Recreation staff for your service throughout the year. Thank you very, very much. Let me ask, is Lynn Segerblom here this evening? Okay, you are. Okay, hold on just a second, Lynn. I understand we have some graduates here from the LGBT Center getting their GED. Are you guys out there? I think you are. So, graduates, before we get to you graduates, the stars have aligned tonight because I'm going to give a presentation to Lynn Segerblom, and you need to know who she is because she's really important to our community. Lynn, in 1978, she was known as the Fairy Argyle Rainbow, And she was the co-head of the Decorations Committee for the 1978 Gay Freedom Day Committee, which produced the San Francisco Pride and Celebration. So you know what that is. 1978 was the year that Harvey Milk was elected to the Board of Supervisors. And back then, Lynn, with my very dear friend, the late Gilbert Baker, and another friend, James McNamara, they joined together to create a flag, to create a symbol for that year's Freedom Day celebration. And with several years of experiencing tie-dyeing garments, tie-dyeing was something that we hippies, right, Lauren, that we hippies did, or some of us post-hippies, where we would tie-dye garments. Spent a lot of time, she was 21 years old at the time, preparing the heavy cotton and dyeing it in large trash cans. And out of the tie-dye, she created something. She created a rainbow flag. She and Gilbert and James created a symbol that has become internationally known. You may or may not know this, but one time the pink triangle was also one of those iconic symbols representing the emblem that the Nazis used on homosexuals in the concentration camps. That pink triangle would later be reclaimed during the days of ACT UP and Queer Nation as a symbol of pride. But before the pink triangle ended up being inverted with its point going up instead of down, there was the rainbow flag. The rainbow flags fly in the city of West Hollywood 365 days of the year, telling people all over the world that this is a safe haven for LGBT people and for our allies. I don't think Lynn knew way back then that her tie-dyeing efforts in those trash cans would lead to the creation of a symbol that expresses so much hope and optimism for our people all over the world. So it is just fortuitous tonight that on your graduation night, we are going to first recognize Lynn Segerblom for being our Betsy Ross, our seamstress, who created a rainbow flag that we can all use as a symbol of our pride and the certainty of our future. So with that, may I please ask Lynn Segerblom and my colleagues to come down for the presentation.
After Richard.
Thank you. It's really nice. I think it's been 40 years. And may I also say James McNamara. Without James McNamara, we wouldn't have flags, okay? He was the mastermind of sewing. He taught Gilbert Baker how to sew, and he worked so hard. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for gracing us with your presence here in the city of West Hollywood. Glad you came out to see us. All right, now, the next thing we're going to do, we have a group of graduates here. City of West Hollywood, we partner with the Los Angeles LGBT Center every year to honor those students who go back to get their GED, receive their high school diploma, college counseling and tutoring and other services. And tonight we're going to honor those graduates. And I'm going to ask my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico, to be my Carol Merrill, if you are old enough to know what that means. That means he's going to help me hand out the certificates. And I'm going to call each name, and he's going to figure out which of you is here. Sasha Lopez. Sasha here? Sasha Lopez? She's... Is there a Sasha Lopez here? Oh, okay, there you are. There you go, Sasha. Congratulations. Alexander De Leon. Alexander De Leon. Mayor Pro Tem. Thomas Bukakis. Thomas Bukakis is here? Not here, okay. Wesley Underhill. Is Wesley here? Sal Hernandez. Is Sal Hernandez here? Samuel Guinness, G-U-I, yes, was that close? And Guinness. Sebastian Waterhouse. Sebastian. Shawnee Turner. Love Lumpkin. Ronald Coleman. Ronetta Cherry. Not here. Okay. Bella Milano. George Osuna. Jay Rivera. Oh, not good. Okay. Ashley Jones. I think that's everyone, yes? Did I forget anyone? Okay, let me get my colleagues to come down. We just want to, on behalf of the City of West Hollywood, congratulate all the graduates for getting your GED, getting your high school diploma, and good work, everyone. And I was told some of these graduates actually graduated college, so high school, GED, and college. Anybody from the center want to say something? Okay, or all right, please. And there's people watching you at home, so it's going to seem awkward having your back to the crowd, but people at home want to hear you too. So go
hello.
ahead. Just tell us your name, please.
My name is George Osuna. First off, I'd like to thank the LGBT Center. I would like to thank the Youth Education Center, Skylar and Mandy, for being there every step of the way. I would like to thank my beautiful mother who showed up, finally. I would like to thank everyone who called me a lost cause, who thought I was never going to make it. I would like to thank the LGBT Center for giving me a second chance and finally finishing something I've always wanted to finish. And we were thinking, who is this brown boy and why is he speaking to me? It's me. I'm here to represent everyone who thought they couldn't do it. I'm here to represent everyone who will make it in life, who will do something. It doesn't matter what it is, but as long as you're happy, you're making it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Congratulations. So congratulations to all of you. I'm told there's a reception for you upstairs, so you don't have to stay for the boring government meeting part. You can go to the reception. Here's some more diplomas for your friends who are not here tonight. I'll just hand these to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the graduates and to Lynn Segers-Blum. Okay, we will now move to the public comment segment of our meeting. This is a portion of the meeting where we set aside 20 minutes to hear items of general interest to the council or items on our consent calendar. Each speaker will be entitled up to 2 minutes of speaking time. When you approach the podium, please give us your name and your city of residence. The first speaker is Yola Doré, to be followed by Elena Goldenberg.
Good evening, Council. Yola Doré, West Hollywood. Tonight, I'd like to speak to you about the Disability Awareness Awards. Every October, nationally, we celebrate Disabilities Awareness Month. And the City of West Hollywood gives awards to businesses, individuals, nonprofits, and the media for excellence that advocate for persons with disabilities. Last year, we didn't get as many nominees from the public and from you in the category of businesses. So tonight, I decided that I would take it upon myself to remind people that the nomination forms are online, and if correct, I believe there's some hard copies in the lobby, that you could begin the task of nominating one of the businesses here in West Hollywood or the greater Los Angeles area that has been a great advocate providing opportunity and/or services for the disabled community. Personally, I would really appreciate your efforts. We need you to participate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yola. Elena Goldenberg, to be followed by Norma Sandler.
Good evening, honorable council members, city manager, city attorney, and people who are here. Last week I was talking about the Robertson project, and I didn't have a chance to speak it in Russian for Russian-speaking people. Maybe not here in the auditorium, but maybe at their homes. Здравствуйте, меня зовут Елена Голденберг. Я живу в городе Вест-Холливуд больше 24 лет. Я русскоговорящая. Я хочу выступить от имени русскоговорящей комьюнити и выразить недовольство по поводу людей и компаний, собирающей подписи под петицией против проекта постройки гостиницы, прогулочной улицы и так далее на Робертсон-бульваре. Эти люди, пользуясь доверием пожилых людей, многие из которых плохо понимают английский, обманным путем собирают подписи под петицией. Например, на улице Фуллер жителям сказали, что будут сносить весь блок и переселять людей в дома гостиничного типа. Это безобразие должно быть остановлено, и нарушители должны быть наказаны. Мы просим членов городского совета и городской совет аннулировать подписи русскоговорящих граждан по ошибке или непониманию, подписавших петицию, и не принимать их подписи во внимание. Я надеюсь, члены городского совета согласятся, что это нарушение правил закона. I can translate it for you if I still have time. So this is the same thing I spoke last week here on the meeting, that like a representative from Russian community, I am very, very upset about the lie that people are walking through the city and say the lie to the Russian-speaking community, taking advantage of the elderly people who do not understand language or sometimes afraid. So some of the people told Russian-speaking people that all the block will be demolished on Fuller, and you will need to move from your houses if you will not sign the petition. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't be happen ever. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will take care of it. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Добрый вечер. Norma Sandler, to be followed by John Ellendorfer.
Good evening. Norma Sandler, West Hollywood, same apartment over 45 years. I hate to even bring this up after so much joy. I saw something from the U.S. Geological Survey in Colorado. It was a documentary, and it was about earthquake hazards. Any of you can get in contact with them, and I think you should if you haven't. It said that the big problem is not going to be here, it's going to be in Portland, Oregon, and they're going to be blitzed. Anywhere from today till 50 years from now, but it's going to happen. That's what they said, not what I said. Now, as far as the retrofitting, free or low-cost government loans to landlords, I don't know if that would be a possibility. These are things that were brought up at the last retrofitting meeting that I was at. Or just raise the tax a little, somebody said, for retrofitting across the board, and that would cover it. I really hope you intend to exempt low-income seniors. That's what they were talking about. We have no place to go. I couldn't rent a closet for what I'm paying rent now. If the landlord decides to tear down the building, the land grabbers are going to come in. Now, I don't know if that's something the city wants, if that's part of the plan. I have no idea. I hope not. So I'd really like to know, and I know you don't answer questions during these things, but those are my concerns, especially for low-income seniors. I hope somebody calls me back. I did call last week. I called the council members, and I haven't heard from anyone. So I don't know when this is going to be decided. I hope soon. Everybody's got bated breath about what's going on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. John Allendorfer, to be followed by Heidi Schenk.
John Ellendorfer, resident of the city of West Hollywood. Good evening, Mayor Duran and council members. As a member of the Senior Advisory Board, I am here to let the viewing public know that we have our next Seniors in Action next Tuesday, July 24th at 2 o'clock in the West Hollywood Library in the community room. And as stated before, it's a different kind of gathering for adults, 55 plus, and especially because of old age. Seniors in this town can feel isolated. Don't feel isolated. Come next Tuesday to the library. We will have a featured video topic. We will discuss it. We will invigorate you. We will get you to thinking about exploring, challenging, expanding your horizons. It's something different. We want seniors to realize that they are part of this city. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your ideas. And we want you to realize that regardless of any age, you are a part of this city. So come next Tuesday. Get cool, refreshments, and have a fun time in the library room, 2 o'clock.
Thank you, John. We'd like to, again, express our deepest condolences to Heidi Schenk and to her wife, Caitlin, who is here. And by the way, Caitlin, if you're missing your phone, the city clerk has your phone. Okay? Okay. City clerk has it. Heidi Schenk to be followed by Mike Carter.
She has ADHD. You got to give her a break. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Duran and all the council people for honoring my father's passing, especially Councilmember Horvath. I've been away from WeHo for about 1.5 years, caring for my, father at the Mayo Clinic, who fought a very courageous battle against gastric cancer. I missed home, and I am very happy to welcome a new member of our community, my mother, Vicki Schenk, who is now going to be residing in our wonderful community. My father, Simon, thought of WeHo as his left coast home. He came to visit so often, and he used to say that he went to more city council meetings here than he did in his own hometown. Over the 30 years that I have lived in West Hollywood, my father got to meet, I think, all of the city council members, past and present. He was very impressed with our city, with our boards and our commissions, and particularly with our community. And he really was amazed at all of the services that we provided. I think he is resting in peace knowing that my mother, his wife of 62 years, will be able to utilize some of those services as a senior member of our community now. And I am so grateful for West Hollywood, and again, for you honoring one of the most important people in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Vicki, you'll be in good hands, and Heidi and Caitlin's hands, and Caitlin's cooking, especially Caitlin's cooking. Mike Carter to be followed by Jesse Slansky, who is our final speaker.
Evening. Mike Carter, resident of the city of West Hollywood. So this evening, take heart and don't despair, because I'm going to do the happy dance for you tonight. Since we came into existence last October, Ogden Drive Neighborhood Watch meetings have been lively and well attended. We've been able to bring to the table many of our concerns. We've had an enthusiastic and growing core group. City Council and staff may be, or yet become, some of the biggest fans of our meetings. Indeed. Numerous agenda and consent items have responded to the concerns we have brought to the table, and thank you, City Hall. Among some of our favorite things are our new MET team, which we understand can 5150 unstable psychiatric transients on the spot. Block by block is becoming a 24-hour effort, I understand. The Lindsay Horvath walk through the East Side was epic, and we'd love to see more like this. An East Side Park Lawn beautification pilot program for which we eagerly wait in queue. I believe we sent an email to Helen Collins with some fieldwork statistics we'd gathered from North Ogden. Restoration of additional public comment and Planning Commission review of the EIR. Increased after-hours nighttime cleanup services. Daytime trash and litter pickup by hand crews, I believe. Increased staffing for parking services, I heard. And behold, we have sighted Sheriff walking the parks on foot. By the way, on August 7th, our newly revised Ogden Watch group will have our first national night out block party in maybe 15 years. You're invited to come and see what we were able to achieve with only neighborhood business support. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mike. Jesse Slansky, who is our final speaker.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City staff. My name is Jesse Slansky, and I'd like to officially introduce myself to you as the new President and CEO of West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. As you know, we've been building affordable housing here in the city for 32 years. Over that time, the affordable housing industry has changed, we have changed, the city has changed, but the one thing that has stayed constant is your steadfast support and commitment to the most vulnerable among us. Your unwavering support, and I mean the support of the residents, the staff, and you, the City Council, has allowed us to do the work that we do. On behalf of all 830 of our tenants, I sincerely thank you. I'd also like to thank you specifically for your support tonight of 2 items that were moved to the consent calendar. It will relieve the 5A, formerly known as 5A, will relieve a huge burden from a small property and help us allocate our limited resources to the people who need them most, the tenants. I'm honored to have been chosen to lead WHCHC. I'm excited to work with you to advance our mission of moving community members from instability to security. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be reaching out to you and stakeholders to engage a dialogue on housing and our role in the community. So again, thank you so much for your support. Good night.
Thank you, Jesse. Congratulations on your new position. Congratulations. Okay, we'll now move to council member comments. This week, let's start with Councilmember Meister.
Thank you. I just have a few comments. First, on the consent calendar, if you will please note my no vote on item 2E, the TDM program ordinance. On 2H, the commissions and advisory boards report, I just want to thank Samantha Lavin for her service on LGAB. On 2Q, there's a notice of completion on the city meeting room audio system installation project, and I just want to say hallelujah, it's done. So we will be hopefully podcasting or somehow getting out those meetings so that people don't necessarily have to be there in person. And that is all I have for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last council meeting, I wanted to share that I attended the local progress conference in Minneapolis, representing the city, talking about affordable housing, protecting rent control, and the fight to support Proposition 10, criminal justice reform, equity in government systems, as well as access to government systems. It was a great conference, and everyone who attended really got a lot out of it. With regard to our consent agenda tonight, with regard to items 5A and B, I'm glad they're added to consent. I would just ask that staff, and I know I spoke with staff earlier, continue to make sure that vacancies are filled quickly. We do know that our need in the community is great, and we don't want to let units stay vacant too long. On item 2M, for those who don't know, we do have an open data platform as well as an info map, which is up and running, that allows alerts to come through so you know what's going on with regard to development throughout the community, and you can see what's going on in real time. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. And item 2X, I want to thank my colleagues for their support of muscular dystrophy awareness. It will take place on our City Hall, lighting up bright green the week of August the 6th, especially on August the 8th, which is the National Recognition Day. For families who have someone in their household living with muscular dystrophy, it is quite a struggle. And often we don't see them because they are taken care of behind closed doors and in the privacy of their own home. But it is a very difficult struggle. It's a struggle several of my cousins have gone through, and it's very difficult on the families and friends who try to take care of people who are living with muscular dystrophy. So I thank the community for their awareness. If you don't know about it, please take this opportunity to look into it and learn how you can get engaged on the issue. It's very important, and I thank the city for recognizing it.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Heilman.
Yeah, I just have one brief comment, and that is an apology. I will be out of the country at the beginning of next month, so I am going to unfortunately miss National Night Out. I hope everyone comes out. It's a wonderful evening and a celebration of all of our neighborhoods in West Hollywood. It also means that I will likely miss the council meeting on August 6th. Depending on the agenda, I may call in, which I am permitted to do, but I'm going to wait to see if there's anything critical on the agenda to determine whether I do that. So I apologize in advance. I won't be here. I will be attending the Gay Games in Paris and trying to bring that event to Southern California in 2026, which would be great since we'll be having the Olympics here in Southern California. It would be another big event that we could all celebrate here in the city of West Hollywood.
Did you just apologize for having to be in Paris? Yeah. That's chutzpah. That's chutzpah. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for the city manager, maybe could be addressed in his report. Could you give us a potential timeline for the seismic as it moves through our city council agenda, when we might be hearing that? And also, are there any early statistics about item 2N, the Sunset Trip? I wonder if that has the marketing and expectations have been met regarding ridership. So perhaps you could address those two. And thirdly, I wondered if you could give me an update on the parking enforcement reporting on parkway trash. I know we talked about that about a month ago. And the only update I have is that on item 4A, I did receive in my last campaign some donations from the consultants representing the billboard project, as well as some of the neighbors who have written letters regarding the EIR impacts and may be speaking in tonight's comments section. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just have 2 items I wanted to comment on. Last night at Santa Monica Boulevard in La Jolla, there were events that happened across the street from each other simultaneously that I think deserve mention. And I want first congratulate and thank Bob Hastings, the owner of, oh my God, I hate getting old. Thank you, the Gold Coast. I hate getting old. The Gold Coast. The Gold Coast has been hosting the Red Dress Party for over 20 years. And just a quick thumbnail, there were 2 bartenders that were working at the Gold Coast, and they both had HIV. And they made a pledge to one another that whoever was going to die first, that the survivor would have to attend his memorial wearing a red dress. And that was the pact that was made between the 2 bartenders. Well, Mark died, and Yves lived. And unfortunately, Yves was out of town when Mark's memorial was held. And he felt so horrible that he did not keep his pledge, his promise to his friend Mark to wear a red dress at his memorial. So the owner of the Gold Coast, Bob Hastings, decided that every employee was going to wear a red dress to remember Mark and to celebrate his life. And that began the annual tradition of the Red Dress Party. It's now a charitable event that happens every year, where we took one of the most, I think, terrible events that one could imagine and made something really spectacular and beautiful about it. So thank you to Bob Hastings and the Gold Coast and all the participants who participated in the Red Dress Party last night. Additionally, I gave a proclamation to Barry and Karen Mason, who are the owners of Circus of Books. Circus of Books closed last night after 40 years in business on Santa Monica Boulevard. Circus of Books was one of the first gathering spots for Prestige Cityhood for gay men who were trying to find one another. And ironic as it may seem, it was an adult bookstore that was an initial gathering place where a lot of gay men would discover community. And Barry and Karen had to put up with the FBI and Department of Justice and obscenity charges, along with Larry Flint during the early years in the 1970s and 80s, and they withstood it all. But what they were not able to withstand was the introduction of the internet and the way in which information is now disseminated. So I spoke to them last night. They are happily going into retirement and said not to worry about them. They will find something else exciting and wonderful to do. But they really enjoyed being part of the city of West Hollywood for the last 4 decades. And we want to thank them for their years of service at the corner of La Jolla and Santa Monica Boulevard. And with that, that's all the comments that I have tonight. City Manager, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I have a very brief report, and I'll do my best to answer some of the questions that were raised tonight. We're excited to announce that Planning and Development Services is extending building and safety service hours. The counter and permit plan check now will be open during regular operating hours at City Hall. In the past, it was only in the morning. And we're also going to be able to provide late afternoon inspections. A brief update on upcoming council agendas. We did have to shuffle a few things around at this time. The first meeting in August 6th, is going to be a very light agenda. We have a number of consent calendar items and possibly one unfinished business item, but again, it's very light. The second meeting in August, we will have the hearing for the Arts Club. That should be a longer hearing. We are planning also to bring back the seismic program that Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico asked about at the end of the summer, so it will either be on the September 4th agenda or maybe the August 20th agenda. We just need to get to finalize the information from the last Rent Stabilization Commission meeting. Also in October, we're going to attempt to utilize a new strategy on dealing with zone text amendments, and we're going to have basically a marathon meeting, the first meeting in October with a bundle package of zone text amendments. So it'll be a focused, detailed conversation, but from a noticing perspective and presentation perspective, it's going to be much more efficient for us. So that's the look ahead. At this time, staff does not have the numbers available for ridership on the Sunset trip, so we will put together an information item on the next agenda as receive and file. Parking enforcement has recently, or actually Public Works recently did receive the stickers to tag bulky items in the right-of-way. They are being distributed both to parking enforcement and also to field services, so that program's up and running, and I thank Oscar Delgado and his team for doing that. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That moves us to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is a motion made by the council where, well, tonight 26 routine matters are passed all at once as part of the consent calendar. May I ask the city clerk for a report on the fiscal impact of tonight's consent calendar?
Yes, the fiscal impact with the addition of items 5A and 5B and the removal of items 2K and 2U is $784,349 in expenditures, $0 in potential revenue, and $791 in waived fees.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's been moved by Heilman, seconded by D'Amico for approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye. Consent calendar is passed, noting Councilmember Meister's nay votes. We will now move to our first public and only public hearing this evening. That's item 3A. Item 3A is a resolution declaring the results of the majority protest proceedings and renewing the West Hollywood Tourism Improvement District. Yvonne, was this matter noticed as required by law?
Yes, as required by law.
Thank you very much. Looks like we have no speakers on this item, so we can get a summary report from staff. It looks like Ms. Louie is presenting. Maribel?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This evening, my name is Maribel Louie, Director of Economic Development, and I have with me this evening Tom Keeley, President and CEO of Visit West Hollywood, as well as Nicole Farley. She is a consultant with Civitas, the Business Improvement District consulting firm that has been assisting us with this establishment process this year. We're presenting to you for your consideration the establishment of Visit West Hollywood's Tourism Improvement District. This will be for a 10-year term. The details of which are outlined in the staff report. We are all here to help answer questions that you might have this evening.
All right, thank you, Maribel. Thank you, Tom. Any questions for staff? Councilmember Heilman.
I'm prepared to make a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the recommendations.
All right, would you push your button there? All right, it's been moved to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate with an aye. Any noes with a nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That moves us to item number 4A, which is an update on the design, consideration of the adoption of a mitigated negative declaration and approval of a site licensing agreement with Orange Barrel Media for construction and operation of a pilot digital billboard at 8775 Sunset Boulevard. Okay, it's a 7-staff person event. Looks like everybody is seated. Who will be making the presentation tonight? Okay, Bianca.
Okay. Thanks for your patience while we got settled. It's a big team. Good evening, I'm Bianca Siegel. I manage long-range planning for the city. There are 3 parts to the presentation that you're going to hear this evening. I'm going to provide some background on the project. John Leonard, Community and Legislative Affairs Manager, is going to talk about the key points of the site license agreement. And then you'll hear from the project team, Pete Scantland, who's the founder and CEO of Orange Barrel Media, and architect Tom Wiscombe about their award-winning design. In response to the city's international design competition, the City Council directed staff to begin contract negotiations with Orange Barrel Media and their partners Tom Wiscombe Architecture, MoCA, and Walter P. Moore Engineering for the design, construction, and operation of an innovative pilot digital billboard to replace the existing sign on the city-owned parking lot at 8755 Sunset. Orange Barrel's proposal for the Sunset Spectacular offers an unparalleled mix of creative programming, high design, economic benefit, and thoughtful integration of public space and public arts. Since the selection of Orange Barrel Media as the city's partner for this one-of-a-kind installation, staff has done a number of things. We've conducted technical feasibility studies and developed construction cost estimates, solicited community input and presented the project to the Planning Commission Design Review Subcommittee, as well as the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission, and at a community meeting and neighborhood meeting. We've conducted CEQA analysis and worked with consultants to prepare an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. Community input has been a really important part of this process with several public presentations, and we've also worked with the architect to refine the design in response to those comments from the community as well as from the council and commissions. And finally, staff negotiated a detailed site license agreement which addresses design, construction, and operational details, including an arts program with MoCA and a financial revenue share proposal between Orange Barrel Media and the city. The project includes 2 digital screens which will display both art and advertising, with art occupying up to 20% of the time on each screen. MoCA will curate blue-chip digital artists displaying really world-class art throughout the year and at times for up to 5 hours a month in a block during a monthly art event. Orange Barrel will also work with other local curators to display the work of local and emerging artists in the project. The open-air interior space created by the sign is intended also to be used by visual, sound, or light artists for temporary installations. The project is situated in a new public plaza and is really designed to set the tone for the future of signs on Sunset and to make a statement about the potential for digital signs to enhance public spaces. So the plaza provides a space to view the art and creates open space in an area of Sunset where it is otherwise lacking. Sunset is globally recognized for its vibrant combination of signs, entertainment, and nightlife. And billboards have long had an integral role in the music and politics and political movements of Sunset, a place where culture is made and culture is changed. The project recognizes that longstanding importance of billboards on the Strip and leads them into the future. It promotes the creativity and design excellence and innovation that this unique location deserves. So John Leonard is going to describe the key points of the city's agreement with Orange Barrel Media, which is comprehensive and reflects the due diligence that the team has been doing regarding project feasibility.
Good evening, Council. After the selection of Orange Barrel Media as the top scoring team in the design competition, staff was tasked with negotiating an agreement that provided the best financial package for the city while also balancing other benefits, other important benefits to the project as well. With that in mind, we undertook a long process to negotiate multiple key deal points within the agreement, and I'm going to go over those terms now. At its heart, this is a lease agreement. It's a city-owned parking lot. The city is leasing a portion of that land to Orange Barrel to construct a sign. So the financial terms. Currently, the city receives $40,000 per month in rent from the double-sided static board that is on the site. Once that sign is removed to begin construction of the Orange Barrel sign, Orange Barrel will pay the city $40,000 per month until the new sign is operational. So the city will never lose any money up until the point where we start to get the new revenue from Orange Barrel. The minimum annual guaranteed revenue starts at approximately $1 million and increases 3% each year. The city also receives a 40 to 45% revenue share of the modified gross revenues. The city receives the greater of those two amounts. So if the 40 to 45% revenue share exceeds the minimum annual guarantee, then we receive the revenue share. If the revenue share does not exceed the minimum payment, we receive the minimum. This is similar to how other agreements are structured with the city, such as our bus shelter agreement. I'll mention later on, but I'll briefly touch on here. We anticipate once the sign is fully operational and Orange Barrel has had a year or so to begin selling advertising, we expect to receive between $1.5 to $2 million per year in revenue from the sign. Orange Barrel also agreed to finance and construct the public plaza, which is adjacent to the sign, and the city will repay those costs with no interest over the 10-year term by having 1/10 of the cost deducted from our revenue share each year. The city will be maintaining that plaza, but Orange Barrel Media will provide full security services for the sign and plaza. That will be 24-hour security. I will also briefly touch on some of the main components of the public art program, though Bianca touched on some of them, so I will go quickly. The digital screens will display up to 20% art. This will be comprised of two different components, an art on the hour, which will have digital art at the top of each hour, as well as a monthly curated event where art will be shown for a 5-hour period, and that will be a branded event, and eventually we would hope to expand that event to other digital billboards on the Strip with our new billboard policy that will be coming forward to council soon. The interior space will also be programmed with art, as Bianca showed. And as Bianca mentioned, Orange Barrel Media will work to curate the space. They will work with both local curators to identify emerging artists, and they will also work with their partnership with MoCA to identify international talent and host several major exhibitions per year. So there will be a mix of both local and international art at the site. All artwork is going to be approved by the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission, and the city may use a portion of its 20% control for public service announcements. Digital operations, so the project must comply with strict operating standards for hours, operations, light emission, and contrast that were mentioned in the staff report, specifically for hours of operation from sunrise to 2 a.m. Moving images are allowed. Between 2 a.m. and sunrise in the middle of the night, only static images are allowed on both of the boards, and the LEDs must be dimmed. So overall, the public benefits summary, we estimate that the city will receive between $14 and $20 million per year, or in total over the 10-year term. That range takes into account if there are any decreases in the economy and advertising rates decrease and advertising isn't as popular. We will receive guaranteed revenue of over $11 million. Once the 10-year term is over, the lease agreement is over, and the city owns the structure and control of it. And then the city can determine what it would like to do at the end of that 10-year period with the structure. The city will also own the new plaza and landscaping, and that will be put in by Orange Barrel. Of course, it's a cutting-edge art program. Orange Barrel will pay for that art and its curators, and there will be opportunities for both emerging artists and well-established artists. This also is an opportunity for the city to brand and market the pilot program, and we will be working with Orange Barrel and our communications team on that. With that, I will pass it back over to Bianca.
Thanks. I'm going to play a brief video prepared by the project team, and then you'll hear from them more regarding the design.
Okay, thank you, Bianca. We bring the house lights back up.
There's
and-
I'm sorry, there's actually more to the presentation from
there
the,
is.
from the
I'm
project
sorry.
team.
Okay. All right, Pete.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. On behalf of our team, I want to thank you all for your leadership throughout this process. I'd also like to thank city staff for working so hard with us over the last 2.5 years. Signage plays an essential role in the placemaking of the Sunset Strip. And this project enables West Hollywood to maintain its leadership at the forefront of creativity, innovation, and technical achievement. We feel very fortunate to have been selected by the City of West Hollywood over the last 2.5 years, and we've worked very, very hard to bring this project to this point tonight. What we're bringing back today presents an even greater public benefit than what you saw previously. This project has received national attention, and to a degree never before achieved in the industry, it has brought together practitioners in architecture, art, and urban media. The design has also been recognized, achieving the highest possible design award from the AIA, and has attracted a huge number of other collaborators, including one of the most important arts organizations in MoCA. I've also heard from a number of cities who are interested in emulating what you all have started in West Hollywood. Cities are looking to merge art, architecture, and set a higher standard for what signage could be. It's very fitting that this project began in West Hollywood, the creative city. As was the case when we were awarded this project 2.5 years ago, we're even more excited to take it to the next step, and we look forward to building it together. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? I guess, or is there more? Am I cutting the presentation off again? I'm sorry. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Mayor Duran and honorable council members. My name is Tom Wiscombe. I'll go as quickly as possible because you've already seen a lot of the images, but I just wanted to say that the design that we're showing today is the result of 2.5 years of working with you all and with staff and the community, and the overall design, form, and height of the project are the same as when you selected the project a couple of years ago. It's been, however, developed and refined in order to contend with some of your concerns and address some of your concerns and also those of the community and increase the public benefit in general. The project's been developed in terms specifically of its relationship to context, its arts programming, and how the art component will actually work, and also its underlying technical solutions, detailing, and structure. And I'm really excited about the project in general. So I'm just going to flip through some slides here, some of which you may have just seen, although this is not working. Okay, good. So enhancing the public realm. The plaza has been expanded in its shape and refined into a lively pedestrian public space in response to feedback. It's an open space for people to meet, relax, and hang out.
Concerns about the project, including billboards in general and the height and size of the structure, loss of parking spaces, potential light or noise impact, and potential public safety issues. In addition to responding to those letters in the context of the secret process, as you've heard, the project team also considered that input in the design updates to the project. The project incorporates strict protocols for limiting light spillover. It must follow the city's noise ordinance. Interior and exterior pedestrian lighting, as well as the transparency of the panels on the structure and 24-hour security are in place to support public safety. We also heard from residents who were supportive of the significant public art program and the project design. The MND evaluates the environmental impact of the proposed project, and the impact determinations for the proposed project are shown on this slide. The analysis determined that the project would have no or less than significant impact for 17 issue areas, and less than significant impacts with mitigation for the one remaining issue area. Chapter 3 of the document provides a detailed discussion for each of those, and the document and project include a mitigation measure that requires that the sign operator verify that appropriate lighting levels are maintained for the life of the project. The project before you reflects these design updates based on feedback to date. If you have additional comments regarding the design this evening, the team will address those and can return for final design approval at a future meeting. Our next steps are to go to the Planning Commission, which is required to make a finding of general plan conformance. We can have final design approval following that, and then the team will prepare construction documents, submit for a building permit, and move into the construction phase. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your patience. We're available for questions.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Siegel. Any questions for staff, the applicant, Mr. Scantlin, or the architect, Mr. Wiscombe?
I have 2 questions for staff.
First,
Was there any evaluation of how this space will be sold, or whether the space is sellable for advertising? I know that part of the reason this agreement dragged out for a long time had to do with the viability, the financial viability of the project, and so I didn't see in this report anything about analyzing that the space is actually sellable. So I know that you'll have to create art that's very specific to this this piece, and so if there's anyone who can speak to that.
Councilmember Horvath, Pete Scaland. Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. So we've actually, since the project has received some media attention, we've actually been hearing from many of our clients, some we've spoken informally about it, and folks who've just read about it. But our company has really been built on the idea that we would offer non-traditional sizes, aspect ratios, and shapes. We've done this all across the country since I started the company in 2004. We're now in 15 or 16 cities. And while this is the most architecturally interesting and advanced design we've ever done, we have no concerns about the viability, and in fact, we believe it actually enhances it because it's truly one of a kind. We've heard from many potential clients who are all really excited and are actually looking forward to negotiating with us at that time. So we actually think that the unique design will be a tremendous value driver of the project.
Okay, thank you.
And then I would add briefly on that the city contracted with a third-party consultant, Premier Partnerships, to review the revenue projections of Orange Barrel, and they agreed with the revenue projections for the sign.
Okay, thank you. My second question is that I understand many of the terms have changed from the time that council last saw this project to what is presented before us tonight. If you, and especially our city attorney tonight, could speak to making sure that that's created an equitable process, that terms haven't been changed that would have otherwise altered the outcome of the process for any of the other competitors. I'm concerned that we changed so many of the terms at this stage of the project.
Sure. So regarding the project outline that was included in the RFP, clearly that was an even playing field. All teams that submitted on the project, all 10 of them responded to the same exact specifications, although certainly in different ways. The changes that you're seeing to the project from the time that you approved the selection of Orange Barrel to now are really the result of incorporating the community input that we've been discussing and negotiation with the project team. We would have anticipated a similar level of change from any project.
And one of the major changes was the addition of 500 additional square feet of digital space, turning the static board into digital. That doesn't necessarily change the design of the project. So council's last action was to select the winning design. It changes the financial component of the deal, but we had seen the finances from all of the other 4 applicants, and they were all within somewhat of the same, some were higher, some were lower, but it was always the intention that once the winning design was selected, that we would negotiate the financial component. And so converting that static sign into digital just increased the financial benefit to the city. If we had changed it for any of the other 3, it changed the finances, which we would have been negotiating after council's approval of the design anyway.
And Lauren, that's your assessment as well, that we're not changing the terms sort of midstream?
Yes, I think staff answered that question quite well, that the RFP served a purpose to help you pick a team in a fair way, looking at their aesthetics, their financial plan, their art program, the whole thing. That got the initial conversations going, and we would expect some sort of evolution in any team that had come forward to get to this point.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wondered how many parking spaces again are we losing, and how much revenue are we losing from those parking spaces? Because I don't think that was in the report.
The RFP identified an acceptable loss of up to 5 parking spaces, and that is in fact what's anticipated with this design, 5 parking space reduction. I don't have the specific revenue numbers per space with us, but the utilization rates of that parking lot at peak hours are around 70%.
Our revenue per space in the city varies depending on the parking lot. It ranges from about $20,000 to $40,000 per space. So we're looking at probably a loss of $100,000 to $150,000 in revenue per year. But then we're looking at a gain of approximately $1 million to $1.5 million per year.
Okay, and then several years ago there was a case that came before council, was before I was on council, with Tower Records and IAC, and I just wondered, how are we avoiding the same kind of issues that happened there with, with surrounding businesses and residents being affected by a digital project?
Thank you, council members. So that project at the old Tower Records site was a specific sign on its own that was not part of a development agreement. So there wasn't a specific requirements in the approval of that sign about light impact and the disruptive nature of signage. Also, we did not have the benefit of the additional environmental analysis that we've been doing with the overall signage project that's allowed us to identify what mitigation measures there could be. So there's some significant changes, plus technology has also changed since that time. So we have better capabilities to control and regulate those impacts, and that's all been included in the development agreement that goes along with this project where there wasn't one then.
Just one more question. I know it just went in and it went out. I'll think of it.
Okay, any other questions, colleagues on the left? We have about 20 speakers we need to get to, so is it all right if I go ahead and get to the speakers? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to public comment. Each speaker, you'll have up to 2 minutes. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name and your city of residence. First speaker is Nathan Schramm, to be followed by Sarah Stifler, to be followed by Carlo Cacavalli.
Mayor?
Yes,
while
Yvonne.
Mr. Schramm comes forward, Lisa Wicombe wanted to express her support for the item, and Susan DeBosmelon wanted to express her opposition to the item.
All right. Thank you, Ms. City Clerk. All right, Nathan?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to give my support. I live in West Hollywood, just up the street from where this project is going to be built. And in regards to parking, I walk my dog by that every single day, and I don't think I've ever seen it full. So I can't imagine with 5 spaces losing that you'd be losing that much income. I love the fact that you guys are bringing in local artists for 20% of the project. I think on the Sunset Strip, such a great place to be represented. If you are an artist and you have your project supported on the Sunset Strip, it's a big honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schramm. Sarah Stifler, to be followed by Carlo Cacavalli, followed by Whitney Ann Jenkins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sarah Stifler. I'm the Chief Communications Officer at the Museum of Contemporary Art, and I'm here just to say how excited MoCA is to be partnering with Orange Barrel and with Tom and with WeHo on this project. I think for us, one of the most exciting things about this is that it gives us an opportunity to get art out of the galleries, first and foremost, but also to utilize a kind of technology that we don't have the opportunity to offer artists on a regular basis. The technology that will be used in these projections is far superior to anything I think probably any museum could readily get a hold of. So this is an opportunity for us to give artists a chance to push forward and to innovate along with being parts of the city that is a long history of being innovative, particularly when it comes to public art. Recently, the director of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, Glenn Lowry, said, and Glenn is considered probably one of the foremost museum professionals in the world, said that if the 20th century was about museums collecting art, the 21st century is about programming. And what he means there is it's about interaction, and it's about an opportunity for us to engage audiences. And this is exactly the kind of thing that is outside of the box that would allow us to get into the street and do that. So thank you all very much for your consideration, and we're really psyched about it.
Thank you. Carlo Cacavalli, Whitney Ann Jenkins, Elise Eisenberg.
Good evening. I'm here in support of this project. It was mentioned that the project won an American Institute of Architects Los Angeles award at the honor level in the unbuilt category in 2017. And I would like to read notes from the jury that awarded the project, and I'm quoting, "This is a fantastic project that reinvents the typology of the typical billboard, something that changes it into something not only architectural in the tectonic sense, but also architectural in the spatial sense." I happen to agree. I think this is a very innovating project in its typology. I think it is more than a billboard. It is experiential in nature, a fantastic opportunity to develop a cultural conversation with the boulevard through its partnership with MoCA. It is true that we are a little tired of construction and traffic and noise, and personally I'm tired of bad projects. but I also think that Los Angeles is a very young city. I think in urban age, it's a teenager. So it is growing, and the process of growing is painful. The city will be growing, no matter what we think of it. And I think actually this is a great opportunity to build a project that would add to the city and not detract, create a constructive conversation, and give the city an iconic element. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitney Ann Jenkins, Elise Eisenberg, Steve Martin.
Good evening, honorable council members. My name is Whitney Ann Jenkins, and I work across the street at the PDC. I'm glad to see that the contract before City Council this evening would get the city millions of dollars more than the original proposal had included. The revenue generated by the art and structure makes this the best possible deal the city could hope for. From what I understand, this process has been 4 years in the making, and in that time, Council has already awarded Orange Barrel Media the proposal. I am excited to see this contract move forward. Never mind the stunning architecture, the public plaza this would create, public art on display, or any of the other number of things previous speakers have mentioned. That's all very nice, and sure, it's important. But the biggest and most striking component about this is the 10-year lease agreement, which the city of West Hollywood could generate between $14 million and $20 million in revenue that could be used for social services, public safety, arts programs, and healthcare. Let me say that again, $20 million. It's in the best interest of the city, those who live, work, and play here, that this contract be approved, and I urge you to do so tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise Eisenberg, Steve Martin, Joe Shoshani.
Elise Eisenberg. I don't know how you could stifle your laughter when looking at that video with a bunch of people sitting around and enjoying themselves staring up at a billboard, like they're going to hang out and like this is a night entertainment. You know, this whole thing was marketed as a bell tower, like it's a rival to the Eiffel Tower and Big Ben, a billboard in a parking lot. Bianca, I love you dearly, but I'm sorry, your staff report was a total fabrication as far as public comment goes. Even though they mentioned the 36 letters, there was absolutely no reference to the 40 to 50 people that continued to come out and speak vociferously against this project, mostly on aesthetics. Again and again, people came out and they talked about how much they did not like the look of this project, not to mention all the people that complained that it was going to be staring in their face. The people who lived in Shoreham Villas, who surround the parking lot, were complaining outrageously about the monstrosity, the size, the massiveness of this billboard that all of them are going to look out on. All of the businesses across the street from this project, from the green circular building to the you know, the restaurants across the street, they all wrote in letters protesting this. I don't know if any of you downloaded the letters from the DEIR to look at the businesses and the letters around it. The letters that you refer to in the staff report say it was just a matter of secret. It was not that. They hated the look of this project up and down. There was no one who supported the arts element of this project except for a couple of artists who hoped to display their own art. No one supported it. If this was being billed as an artistic project, everyone said, if anything, they liked the Zaha Hadid project, which was a truly artistic piece of design in terms of the competition of the submissions. Not this one. This was unanimously opposed by more than 40 to 50 people, plus the letters. It's an abomination. We don't want it in the neighborhood. You took away the 5 spaces. You're talking about the $500,000 or whatever that you get it. When is something going to be given back to our neighborhood? You rape the Sunset Strip. You rape our neighborhood. You give nothing back to this neighborhood. Nothing. You use the Sunset Strip as a money bank. You give nothing back to us, ever.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Steve Martin, to be followed by Joe Shoshani, Tom Taylor.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood, and I don't know if people normally will stand up and come over and stand next to a billboard and take pictures, but maybe if we open a marijuana dispensary across the street, that will help. My concern was on the financing, and I mean, obviously this project has taken in a lot of input, and that to respond to that input has been a rather expensive proposition because it's gone from $3.75 million to $9.5 million. That's almost a 3-time increase over the 2-year period of the bid. I do have concerns that other people who bid this project are going to look at that, and maybe their bids were different, that this could go up 3 times, and then staff be rather blasé about the other competitors saying, well, that's just how it is because we asked for some different things. Because we must have asked for a lot, because it's gone up by almost three times the amount that it was originally budgeted for. You know, I've read the staff report. It seems to indicate that the city's only going to be, I want to make sure that the city's only going to be obligated for the original 3.75, and I think that's what it says, but I think maybe one of you can ask the question from staff and assure that, because I don't think we want to get stuck with paying the extra $6 million, because that would have an impact. I mean, there appears to be a lot of positive things with this. It's certainly an interesting and unique project, but if it doesn't work and it does glare into people's windows and it does cause people to lower their property values and invade their privacy, I mean, then we'll have to put your names on it. Thank you.
Joe Shoshani, Tom Taylor, David Nash.
Good evening. I'm Joe Shoshani. I live in Beverly Hills. I have a unique position since I also bid on this. I was one of the people who participated in this, and actually the end product I think is much better when they originally had it. I think it has improved a lot. It was a fair competition. I lost, but it was a great experience for me to learn about this and think about signage, the way we can adapt it to the city. Your city is known as the creative city, and this is the fulfillment of it. And I hope with this you bring Sunset to 21st century. We need it. Sunset is a special place, and Sunset Strip can reach its potential by doing what you're doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Taylor, David Nash, Todd Sarcoletti.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I live in West Hollywood. My first name is Tom, my last name is Taylor, and I'm in favor of this project because it brings art into the community. It makes West Hollywood even more special and adds a uniqueness that cannot be found in other cities. People visit West Hollywood from all over the world, and I think this project will attract world attention. Thank you.
Thank you. David Nash, Todd Sarcoletti, Hector Barbosa.
David Nash, resident, West Hollywood. As a matter of fact, I live barely a half a block from the project. I'm here to support it. I'm happy to say that people associated with the project made the effort to outreach to our building, Palmview, and actually made it into an art class that's highly productive at our building. I've lived here almost 20 years, and I've been underwhelmed by the Sunset Strip. It doesn't, in my view, live up to its reputation. And I think as the creative city, we deserve more fabulousness, a little excitement, innovation, step into new technology. I'm in favor of intelligent development that brings excitement to the community and an opportunity for art to be shown. So I hope you all support this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Todd Sarcoletti, Hector Barbosa, Ruben Amion.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I've never done anything like this before. I've only been in this city. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Todd Sarcoletti, and I'm a resident of West Hollywood. I'll say that. I've had conversations with friends about ways we can beautify the city and you know, where things could be improved. I was just recently introduced to this concept, and my thinking is not so much. So I've never, coming from New York City, I've never seen anything like this. It is completely innovative. I think any way we could beautify West Hollywood, even more than it is beautiful to me, is worthwhile. So like I said, I was just recently introduced to this concept, so I wasn't able to do my due diligence, but I am in full support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. See, it wasn't that hard, Todd. You done good. Hector Barbosa, Ruben Amion, Timothy Sterry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Barbosa, and I've been a resident of West Hollywood for 10 years and had friends here for 35 years, so I've been part of the city for that length of time. And I want to say that as soon as I heard about this project, okay, I live on Palm Avenue, which as you walk up, you come to Horn and Sunset. And I took a walk there, and while I was taking pictures, I met a couple, one couple and a father and their 2 kids. And in the conversation, I showed them pictures of this, proposed, billboard and the alternative. And as we discussed it, they came to a conclusion that this was much more innovative, much more representative of what West Hollywood, particularly the Sunset Strip, has to offer. The older gentleman that I was talking to, he was here in the 70s, he was here in the 90s, and now he was here 20 years later in 2018, and he thought he saw something disappearing, okay? If we just have a statue in that particular place, that doesn't really represent, West Hollywood. West Hollywood, particularly that area of the Sunset Strip, has been about advertising, but at the same time now we can push it to promoting the arts in one way or another. It's the direction that I think West Hollywood has to go in, completely. And I just want to say something else. I know a lot of the people who live in the neighborhood and who are also owners of the, the businesses around their restaurants and everything like that. A lot of the people that I know there do not have a strong sensibility towards the arts. So I'm not surprised that, some of them would say, we hate it, okay? Because they could care less about the arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruben Amian, Timothy Sterry, Claudia Batuel.
Hello, my name is Ruben Amian. I'd like to say that I think this is a great project in my opinion. I do live in West Hollywood and I have been enjoying Sunset Boulevard since 1992. Whenever I drive, like the sunset, it always amazes me and gives me very good feelings. This project, I think, is important because not many people, in my experience, go to MoCA, visit MoCA for whatever reason it is. In this case, art will come to people, instead of people going to check out the art in the museum. It's much easier for them. And I also think that a lot of people will just, can stop the cars and walk out and take a look and bring their families there. It's a very interesting concept. It's innovative, and I think it will look very good on Sunset Boulevard at night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Timothy Sterry, Claudia Batuel, Leonardo L.
Good afternoon. I'm Timothy Sterry. I'm a resident of WeHo. I want to voice my approval for the Sunset Spectacular project. I agree that I think that it will bring in, as an artist myself, it would draw me to the community just so I could see the art, which would increase revenue to the local businesses, and also it would help, even people that might not exactly appreciate art. Maybe it might give them an idea to, maybe they see this piece of art and it might change their mind about something, and then they go on to create more amazing pieces that could possibly be featured there later. And again, it's going to be accessible 24 hours a day, which is another good thing. This is a city, a former resident of New York City. If you're not 24 hours, you're not doing very well. New York City, New York City has this thing called Link NYC now. That on every street, almost every street corner, you have. It's essentially a podium that has 2 screens on it. It promotes local events. It promotes libraries that have readings happening, and has a tablet on it that you can find where you are in the city, and helps you guide your way around. And me personally, I would much rather look at a piece of art and a piece of architecture than a couple of parked cars. It just seems much more appealing to my eyes. Again, just the promotion will bring more people out to support the local businesses, to support the local artists that bring the community closer together, in my opinion. I hope that you approve, the MND, and please sign the contract with Orange Media. Thank you.
Thank you. Claudia Batuel, Leonardo L., Ronald DiCenzo. Sarah, Claudia, Batiule. Seeing no response, Leonardo L., to be followed by Ronald DiCenzo.
Good evening. My name is Leonardo Lupuri. I'm from Florence, Italy. Apologize already for my accent. I moved to West Hollywood in 2016, right where the project is about to happen. And I was used to walk in Florence, surrounded by art, where really you can walk through buildings and pieces of masterpieces. We're still there. I believe the art can amuse people, art can inspire people, art can restore mind functions, and art can elevate people. I think the art is an investment, and this is essential for the community wellness. Perhaps art will not solve problems, but art as a form of beauty can help people to fill up the sense of emptiness that otherwise can lead to loneliness, substance abuse, and violence. Art is an opportunity to get in touch with our own emotions, and as a professional, the daily help people to get over fears and emotional blocks. I totally believe that this is really an opportunity for the people, the community, to have something that can inspire them. I hope this project will be happening, and you will give the opportunity to the community to have more heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ronald DiCenzo, Amanda Smash-Hyde, Viken Markarian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ronald DiCenzo. I live in West Hollywood. I live right at Palm Avenue and Holloway. I think this project is awesome. I'm an artist, and I think it's a nice little sparkly diamond sitting there on Sunset Boulevard. It will just not do anything but enhance Sunset Boulevard. It will make it, to bring people in from all over in a city that's already full of diversity. And I just think it will be, it will make it sparkle. It's so different. It's the modern Sunset Boulevard. And I think it's for the art community and for anybody else that's visiting the city. They'll want to go to that place. It's a little diamond on Sunset Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Smash-Hyde, Viken Markarian, Matt Saver.
Good evening. Amanda Smash-Hyde, renting resident and small business owner. I think this is beautiful. And I think it's beautiful without revenue. So revenue is a bonus. And the thing I like about revenue is I know my city, and I know that they utilize revenue to do really wonderful and positive things within the community. I think we like to call ourselves the creative city, last I heard, and I think that this is a wonderful representation of creativity. And I'm going to be one of those weirdos in the picture staring up at a screen. I can tell you that. I walk on Sunset all the time. Book Soup is my place. And I think it's awesome, a total win. Let's do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Viken Markarian, Matt Saver, and Zvi Jabri.
I'm Viken Markarian, and I've been a resident for 10 years. I like the project, but because it integrates the community, I don't have to go to downtown now to, for a museum, feel. I can come to this, project basically and have a sense of that I'm part of, something that's, that's creative. Also, there's a lot of, families that live in here, and that would integrate them into the Sunset Strip other than just, nightclubs and so forth. So I urge you guys to approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Saver, Zvi Jabri.
Hi, my name is Matt Sauer. So I've been living in West Hollywood since last year. I've been really enjoying here. I've done my studies in Poland, so I'm from Europe. I've been in many countries, but I really like the West Hollywood because it's full of art. There are a lot of things to do. And since last year, I've been to downtown like a couple of times, but rest of the times, all the times, I spent in West Hollywood because I had like a lot of things to do. And I'm asking you because I'm into music, I've been doing music, and then so I'm into art. So what I'm asking you is just approve this project. So it would be awesome to see those projects like this in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Zvi Jabri, who is our last speaker, unless anybody else has a speaker slip.
Hi, it's Vijay is my name. I've lived in West Hollywood for 27 years. When I saw the picture of this project, it created an emotion inside of me. And when art creates emotion, that means it's good. Even if the emotion is not positive, as long as it creates something for me to feel and think. When I travel through Santa Monica Boulevard or I walk, there are quite a few statues and sculpture and everything. You know what? I can't even remember either one of them. But when I walk on Sunset Boulevard or I drive every morning, I can tell the pulse of LA. I can tell the pulse of this country by the advertising, because advertising is art. And this is a combination of art, and this is modern stuff. You know, I travel all over the world. This reminds me of certain section of Hong Kong when you see it from far away and you see it, and it's like the insect who sees the light and is attracted to it, it doesn't even know why. That's how I felt when I saw the pictures. So please, we need more art here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's our final speaker. I don't see anybody else rushing, Yvonne, to throw in a speaker slip, so I think we're done. Colleagues? Who would like to begin? Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank everyone who spoke, but I want to talk about civility in our comments before I get to my comments. Earlier today, we received an email about calling people in the city who worked on this project stupid, and tonight I heard comments about the city's actions being rape of residents, and I understand that people can have very strong feelings about what's happening, but I am more than willing to tell you what it means to be a survivor of rape, and what this city is doing is not raping our residents. So I just want to say, let us have a civil discourse without using language that isn't appropriate for the conversation that we're having. It's not a secret that my preferred design on this project was the Zaha Hadid design. That design did not get the support to move forward to this round, and so I did have concern that the changes, as you heard earlier, that the changes that have happened in this process along the way would have a potential legal impact with regard to the competition on this project. I spoke with the team representing that project, and they are not contesting this project, evidenced by them not being here tonight. I heard one of the other competitors speak here tonight saying that he is not contesting that the project, that this process was in some way unfair or inequitable based on what has happened since the last council hearing. So I think that's important to note in the record. But I do share some of the concerns that were raised because this project is being billed as a piece of art, and for the art component, that our Arts Commission has not really had substantive input. There have been receive and file reports that have come, and I know that that's where some of the residents have come forward and commented, but my understanding is that the Commission hasn't engaged into the substance of the art, and so I think that's concerning. I think it's mentioned in the report that this would go back to the Arts Commission. I know as part of the presentation it was also mentioned that this will go back to the Planning Commission. So I have concerns that the council will be making a decision before this goes back to those commissions. Usually commissions weigh in and we consider that testimony and whatever they add to the discussion before we make our decisions. And so I would just like to offer for consideration to my colleagues that we allow this process to go forward to the Arts Commission and to the Planning Commission before we make a final determination on this project. So that way, I know that there's often expressed sentiment about the council weighing in or staff representing that council direction is the way to go, and so commissions feel like this is what council's telling us to do, so they don't have the freedom to be able to weigh in as if their comments will be heard as part of the project. And so I'm just wondering if we can offer our feedback on the design as directed in recommendation 1, and then let it return to the commissions before we make a final decision on the project, so all of the information can be considered at the same time.
All right, thank you. Any other council colleague wish to? Councilmember Meister.
If I apologize, if I may make one clarification
Yes,
about the
yeah,
process
okay.
before I move on. The project has gone to the Planning Commission Design Review Subcommittee and to the ACAC for initial discussion of the art programming concept. The future steps with the ACAC would be approval of the actual art program as it moves forward. They would be involved in that as they would with any other public art process. The Planning Commission's role at this point is, as it would be for a development project, we need to have a project application that is submitted essentially as a result of this contract. The city needs to agree to move forward with a project so that it can be submitted, and then the Planning Commission's purview is limited in this case to the general plan conformance finding. So certainly we can get additional comment from them, but the process is a little bit atypical compared to other project types.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Thank you. I remembered my question. So this is not going to be ready for 6 months, and yet we're calling it a pilot program that I thought was the pilot program that was supposed to go before we decide on billboards, and yet the billboards apparently are coming back to us in August or September. So really, what is the purpose of this pilot program?
Sure. So as a pilot, the process that we've been going through in terms of developing and releasing the RFP and working with the project team, conducting the environmental analysis, each step along the way, including the community input, has informed the direction of the policy project as well. Those things are moving in parallel. As it is ultimately a construction project, those things take longer, but the entire project team has gained really valuable insight that you'll hopefully see when it comes back to you has positively impacted the policy direction as well.
Okay, and then in the report it does say that there would be contracting a private security company when necessary. It doesn't say that it would be 24 hours. So when is necessary?
So the private security company is contracted 24 hours. They make periodic checks of the location, and then the city's security ambassadors would also be going near the site and would contact the security company as well if something came up. But they would be on contract 24 hours a day to respond to the site, and they would also make checks throughout the day of the site, but there wouldn't necessarily be a security guard standing at the site all day long.
Okay. So I agree with Councilmember Horvat that I would like to see this go to Planning Commission before we give a final approval, and my reason being that it seems to me that this has not been fully vetted with the community. The fact that those letters were not included in our staff report, but in an EIR a mitigated negative declaration that was posted online. I mean, I happened to get a hard copy because I asked for a hard copy of the environmentals on everything that we look at, but I think if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have known about the 36 letters and, and the fact that most of them were opposing the project for various reasons. I would like, look, I like that this project is supporting the arts. I like the MoCA connection. I don't particularly like the massiveness of the structure, and I am still very concerned about the public safety aspect, especially with right now the city and basically all of California is dealing with a homeless issues, which I think will become a problem in that structure. I'm concerned with the lighting impacts and the hours of operation, and because I can tell you that I have now, the Beverly Center now has digital video billboards on each of its corners, and I'm beyond 500 feet from that building, and it's annoying, and it's going all the time. So I am concerned about that, and that's why I would like to see the community, the neighborhood, have a little bit more feedback on that in terms of, the issues that they're dealing with, to feel like they have a comfort level with this project. I think that, typically Afriat Consulting does a lot of outreach with the neighborhood, and I'm actually surprised that, the neighborhood didn't realize that this was coming back. and that they seem to be, opposed to this project. So I would like to just see a little bit more work with the neighborhood, and if that means possibly at the planning commission level, you could kill two birds with one stone, rather than us making a decision and then the neighborhood feeling like they really don't have a say, because the truth of the matter is if the conditions that aren't in the document that we approve, that means that they may not be met. So that's I agree with Councilmember Horvat that I would hold off on our decision until after the Planning Commission.
Gentleman to the left, Councilmember Heilman.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came out to speak tonight, and thank you to our staff. I want to talk a little bit about a number of issues that I have, and I'm probably going to annoy pretty much everyone. So that usually means I'm doing my job. When we went out to RFP and we narrowed it down, we had two really fantastic finalists to choose from, and we agreed to choose Orange Barrel, and I support that decision, and I think Orange Barrel has shown how creative and talented they are with this particular project. So I agree that we need to go forward with them. I think they have proven themselves as adaptable and flexible and everything we expected when we went through the RFP process. I also agree with the MND, the mitigated negative declaration. I think staff has analyzed appropriately the impacts of this project, and I have no problems with the conclusions. I, like Lauren, did review all of the comment letters there, and it was pretty apparent that a lot of people in the neighborhood did not like this proposal. They did not appreciate the size of it, and a lot of the businesses nearby also didn't like this proposal. I don't think our staff did a fair job in representing the degree of opposition to this proposal in the staff report. And I think that's a problem on our side that needs to be addressed. Staff has outlined all of the financial benefits, and they're considerable, and that should be something that we weigh in on. But ultimately, if we're going to do this, it should be something that is more suitable and more appropriate for the location as opposed to the size of what we've been presented. This initially started out as a pilot project for us to look at how we could have creative signage on Sunset, how we could allow digital and creative imagery on Sunset. And since we own the lot and we have a sign there, we identified this as a location for this kind of pilot project. This, however, has somehow morphed into something more than a pilot project to evaluate creative signage. It's morphed into a public plaza, which frankly I don't think is going to really be usable. It's morphed into a quasi-art gallery inside of the sign, which again, I have some concerns about. And even the name that has been given to it, the Sunset Spectacular, meaning bigger and bolder than everything that has come before. So I think in that regard, staff has kind of missed the mark in terms of moving forward with this project. What I would be supportive of is a project that is of a lower size that isn't as towering on that lot. I know that that would mean we would lose money, but that to me is not the primary concern. The primary concern is how do we allow and encourage creative signage on Sunset. I think there's a lot of aspects of this proposal that are meritorious. Certainly the artist came out and spoke about that tonight. But I think we as a council need to be careful that we don't have another Cuervo sculpture. And that is before a lot of people's time on the council, but those of you who've been here a long time remember that we had a sculpture on Santa Monica Boulevard that was creative and artistic and beautiful, but there was a lot of negative reaction to it. And I think we run the risk that we're going to have the same kind of negative reaction to this if we don't appropriately scale it back and make it more suitable for this particular site. So that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Council, looks like we've had a last-minute speaker want to speak, and I know Mayor Pro Tem and I still need to speak. Do you want to yield to the public? All right, Aaron Green, and then we'll go back to council.
Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, thank you very much. Aaron Green with the AFRIA Consulting Group. I just very briefly wanted to touch on a couple of things. One, on the issue of community outreach. I appreciate the letters of concern in the staff report. I also would encourage council members to take a look who was here this evening. There was community outreach, and in fact, I had a team that went door to door in this neighborhood and knocked on everybody's door. And the people who decided they wanted to get involved in the conversation, at least those recently, were the people who were here this evening. So I'm not discounting the letters in the staff report, but I'm also asking don't discount the people who are here this evening speaking strongly in support of the project. In addition to the work that we did that was all voluntary, the city, of course, did send out its registered notice about 10 days ago. So there were at least 2 opportunities for noticing. So I would just state that if, I've been in projects where there's been overwhelming community opposition, and this really doesn't feel like one of them. With regard to taking steps forward beyond this evening, one of the things that's been going on for the last 18 months is that Orange Barrel has been working with the city, further design iterations, and quite frankly, investing a lot of time and money. There's been over $500,000 in soft costs just since the award of the RFP to Orange Barrel. That doesn't include the time beforehand to prepare the proposal. What I would request is that perhaps you move forward tonight with the execution of the contract and the certification of the MND. That does not preclude modifications to the project. All that does is really codify the agreement and the scope of the environmental to say it can't get any bigger, it can't get any more intense. But by certifying the MND, moving the RFP, moving the contract forward, quite frankly, it gives my client more to hold on to in terms of the ability to invest more money, continue its partnership with the city because we know we're going to have a contract. And so I would ask you to consider that this evening. It doesn't limit anything that the council members who have concerns wanted to address, but it just gives us a level of ability to continue to invest, go forward, and it reemphasizes the commitments on both ends. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess by my count, there were 20 people who came out to speak. 19 and a half of them were in favor of it. I couldn't tell if Steve Martin was in favor of this or not. You can send me a text. I'll announce your POV if you'd like. But I think really, when I think back about the RFQ, we thought long and hard about what was supposed to be included in this proposal, and I advocated strongly that the architectural landscape art component was given a fair number of points, was at least equal to the points that would be awarded for the public benefit, and clearly we've received that. This project in its unbuilt form has won an AIA award. There's serious seriously few buildings in our city that have won AIA awards, and even fewer in their unbuilt form. And so I think it's not a coincidence. We are actually onto something here, and Orange Barrel Media and the team, along with our staff, have developed this, and it is continuing to develop, and I would hope we would see it through into a third dimension. The second thing is that having a second location of MoCA in our city is no small feat. In Manhattan, there are locations of the Metropolitan Museum, 2 locations of the Museum of Modern Art, and we are beginning to be part of that trend, as was brought up by Sarah Stifler, that really the making of art is about dissemination in this century. It's not about collection. And these are sort of highfalutin words from an art school graduate, but it really is, in fact, the kind of democratization of art that I think many of us who went to school in the late 20th century believe the 21st century can begin to achieve, and we have an opportunity here on our strip. The selection of Orange Barrel Media, I thought, was fair and open and part of a process that had good losers and good winners. And our Sunset Strip had a billboard presence in the 80s, and slowly, very slowly, we killed it. And we did that, this body. I wasn't here, but it happened. We got rid of the Marlboro Man, for heaven's sake. We started having bank ads on buildings on the Sunset Strip. And that's just not, that's not where this city needs to be focusing its energy. This city should be inventing culture as we have for the previous 75 plus years of this location. And I just think this is a way to continue to do that. And I wanted to point out, I also read the comments that were a response to the negative declaration, and I think the context of those comments is we asked people to send in their complaints about this document. We didn't say, send in what you like about this. We said, send us a letter about what you don't like about it. So for those who are surprised that there are no letters saying, we really love the perforated metal, or we think an art component is exquisite, or a plaza on the Sunset Strip provides free public space in which our city has very little. That's not what this negative deck asks you to do. What it asks you to do is to look at this document and find something about it you don't like, and if you take the time to write it down and send it to us, we will address it, and we addressed it. And so I think it's unfair to judge whether this proposal sinks or swims by that, because in fact that's not the context for sending in comments. So I'll return to where I started. There were 20 people who spoke, and Elise, your passion continues, and I hear you. I don't believe that it will have the sort of impact that your passion brought forward. And for Steve, I think the economics of this, like the economics of most things, is complicated, and building this project, it may cost a lot of money, but I don't believe that cost is to us. I believe it's to the developer, and the benefit to the city is quite high. I did want to address, I mean, yes, this will go to the Planning Commission, and that will be another opportunity for people to talk not just about whether it's consistent with the general plan, but as is the history of this city, people can talk about whatever they like as long as they're talking about the project. And so my guess is if there are, as has been reported, 40 people who have come to every meeting, but seemingly this one want to go to the Planning Commission meeting, that would be a chance to do that. And I wanted to talk about one more minute about the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission. Martin Gantman commented and contacted me a couple of times about whether or not the Arts Commission had been given an opportunity to review this. And with respect, this is not the purview of the Arts Commission. This is the purview of the City Council. And I think Mr. Gantman shares a bed with somebody who might be able to turn him into a City Council member if he wanted to be making decisions like this. I do think the Arts Commission has and will receive every opportunity to talk about the art component if it's built, when it's built. But this went through a fair process, a public process. The council selected this architect and this project, and I don't believe the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission should be commenting on this. I do think and do hope and expect fully that our Cultural Affairs Commission will, going forward, comment on the art component. So I hope that among the five of us, we can find a way to approve, to certify the mitigated negative declaration and move forward to sending this to the Planning Commission for its review, whether it's consistent with our general plan.
Thank you. I concur mostly with Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico and just about everything that he said, and I do support the project. I want to talk about this for just a bit, though. Elise Eisenberg and I are neighbors. We both live on opposite sides of the Strip and not too far away, and we actually had a very nice lunch a couple of months ago and found out that despite being on different sides of some issues, we actually both share a deep passion for the Strip and the history of the Strip, and we both want the Strip to be successful. And I think that's probably true of most of the people who live up and around the Strip. Those of us who choose to live there, we know what we got into when we picked that neighborhood. It's the excitement of the Strip. It's the glamour, it's the lights, it's the noise, it's the traffic, it's the rock and roll, it's the sounds, it's everything about the Sunset Strip that, at least for me, and I think many of us who live up there, we're attracted to live in that neighborhood because of what the Sunset Strip has always been and I think continues to be. I remember the Cuervo statute. I actually liked the Cuervo statute very much. To my colleague, Councilmember Heilman, it was a great expression of Latino culture and very vibrant and colorful, and I was one of the people that actually liked it. But I remember that a lot of people came up complaining that it was too big and too loud and too much and too flamboyant, and I thought, yeah, that's Latino culture, pretty much. We are all of those things. And I also remember when we approved the Shepherd Ferry elephant on the side of the parking structure, we had the same voices complaining that it was too big and too ugly and too gaudy and too commercial and Shepherd Ferry. And of course, now that we're in the process of covering it up, people are like, protect it. Please protect it. We love that elephant mural. That's what art does. Art provokes. Art has a point of view. Art causes dissension. Art makes people uncomfortable. If art's doing that, art's doing its job, whether it's music or performing art or sculpture or painting. So I think that historically, looking at government, and not just the city of West Hollywood, but the county of Los Angeles, there have been efforts over the 100-year history of the Strip to try to constrain the energy of the Strip. And every time that local government, city or county, has attempted to shut down the Strip, we've ended up harming ourselves, whether it's been the removal of the Marlboro Man, as my colleague mentioned. I remember when my dear friend, Councilmember Sal Guriello, put up the no cruising signs, no cruising on Sunset. And it stopped, and it killed the businesses on the Strip. Actually, the cruising cars with the cruising teens were part of the excitement of the Strip. And when local government decided to put up no cruising signs and discourage people from doing that, it drove them away. The Strip had to rebound from that. There have been efforts, I think, to try to stop the noise of the bars or keep the people at the Whiskey and the Pearl quiet, or can't we do something about all the kids up there? And to me, it's crazy. That is the Strip, trying to shut down what makes the Strip so exciting in the first place. What I liked about this proposal is we've approved tall walls all up and down the Strip where property owners are putting up 13 and 15-story murals to their private benefit. And only recently, in the last 10 years, did we finally come up with the concept of creating development agreements around those tall walls so that our residents could get a financial benefit. So now we have the opportunity to actually create our own large structure where all or most of the proceeds go to the benefit of our residents. And now we're concerned about height when we're approving tall walls up and down the Strip. To me, part of what makes this an interesting thing is its size, is the fact that there are going to be large portrayals of moving images. I think to dilute it or to try to cut it down in size is only another attempt to try to control the energy of the Strip. And while some voices may be appeased, it seems to run contrary to the free spirit of Sunset Boulevard and the Sunset Strip. The plaza and all those creations, that was put there because we, as a council, asked for it. We wanted more public benefit. We wanted more of a public gathering space. I mean, that's the whole reason that the whole plaza idea was developed, because we said that we wanted something that the public could gather around the structure. Otherwise, I'm sure Orange Barrel could care less whether it's got a public gathering place or not. Seem to be supportive of it now. And I actually do think that it has the ability to draw people to the Strip. The Tower Records parking lot, you know, we threw up Elton John one day on a whim. It was a great success, and we should be doing more of that on the Strip, last-minute presentations. I know that one of the biggest challenges about the Strip is it's constantly evolving. You know, gambling casinos, supper clubs, dinner clubs, rock clubs. The Strip's always in motion, it's always moving. And I think those of us that have nostalgic ideas about the history of the Strip, we end up doing a disservice to the future of the Strip when we try to constrain it to the ideas of the past. I voted against the Sunset Millennium because I didn't want the Tiffany Theater to go away. The Tiffany Theater is where I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time. I wanted to keep the Tiffany Theater forever. I voted no on the Millennium. Now it's got Equinox. Now it's got all sorts of new uses, new excitement, new hotel, whole new project. I ended up voting in favor of a later version of the Millennium. But the reality is that, you know, the Macambo's not there anymore, and the Trocadero's not there anymore, and a lot of the old ideas about the Strip have passed. We got to make room for the new. And the new, in my mind, is digital technology and the new energy of the lights and the sound. And we need to make way for that and allow private enterprise and young people to reclaim their time on the Strip instead of, I think, being bound by ideas of the past. From just a pragmatic point of view on the money, we all talk up here all the time about the fact that we have a NORC, a naturally occurring retirement community happening here in West Hollywood. People are aging in their rent-controlled apartments. They're not going to move. There's nowhere else in Southern California you're going to get an apartment for $1,300 or $1,400 a month. They are going to live and die in their rent-controlled apartments. And that's just a sad reality that as the next few decades come up, we as a city are going to require millions of more dollars to take care of a lot of octogenarians who are going to be longtime 30 and 40 and 50-year residents of West Hollywood. So the current council has got to figure out ways to get ahead of that, to make sure that when the year 2025 and 2030 and 2035 arrives, we will have enough resources, enough revenue streams in place to take care of a whole lot of old people who grew up during the heydays of the Strip or the heydays of Boys Town, who are going to now retire and live and die in their rent-controlled units. So wherever we can find revenue streams, whether it's hotel taxes or in this case, a new digital medium, I think that it's not only prudent for us to do this, but visionary that we get ahead of the 8 ball that may confront us in the year 2035 or 2040, when I hope future councils will say, thank God those councils passed, figured out how to bring in more revenues to provide social services to so many senior citizens in one community. So for all those reasons, I think we should approve it. Thank God the arts programming is not going to be within our determination of the five of us, because I would hate to see us come up with programming for arts. That's why I think we developed an Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission, because we wanted to bring in people from the artist community to come up with concepts of art. And that programming is going to happen in the future at the ACAC. It sounds to me like we have to take this initial step, because in this case, we are the applicant. We are the contracting body. We are the ones proposing the project. So we have to come up with something for the Planning Commission to consider and evaluate. And I think we should try to pass something tonight in order to move it to its next stop at the Planning Commission, where they can decide whether or not it's in compliance with zoning or what variances are required or other land use issues. And then we move forward with the project and let the ACAC come up with the arts programming in the future. And let's get it up. Let's get it built. I'd like another site for MoCA as well, for all the reasons that my colleagues stated. So those are my general comments, and I hope we pass something tonight.
I will make a motion that we, I want to read this so that I get it right, that we adopt the resolution certifying the final mitigated negative declaration and mitigating monitoring and reporting program for a proposed digital billboard structure at 8775 Sunset Boulevard. That it be sent to the Planning Commission for a review for consistency with the general plan. I do want to say to my colleagues that we can certainly have a simultaneous discussion of the potential programming for this with Arts and Cultural Affairs, but I just don't think that the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission should meet to discuss this item, the structure, the architecture of this item. So that would be my motion, that we certify the MND, that we go to the Planning Commission to make sure it's consistent with the general plan, and that we schedule an Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission to have a fuller bodied discussion of the arts component.
I'll second the motion.
And the contract?
I'm wondering if you wanted to include approval of the site license agreement in that motion.
I didn't hear what you said, but I want to include that.
The approval of the site license agreement with Orange Barrel Media.
Approval of the site license agreement with Orange Barrel. And
I'd like to say one thing just about that site license agreement. We took a lot of care to actually describe the design process, and we have a step to come back to the council for final design approval after the Planning Commission and after, you know, people really have had even more time to really look at the detail of that agreement, because a lot of the responsibilities of both parties are very clearly laid out, the process of how the design develops, and then at any time, if the design is not consistent with what the council approves, it comes back for council approval. So it's a very, we've thought, you know, long and hard and actually documented a lot of the design process that allows some of the questions that some of the council members have that they're uncomfortable about. And I just, for that reason, I recommend accepting the site license agreement as well.
So it's got to go to Planning Commission, and it has to come back here once more. So there's another bite at the apple on
the contract says
design.
it must come back here one more time for another bite at the design.
All right.
And for us to incorporate your comments that you've given us tonight before we even go to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Councilmember Highland?
Yeah, I want to clarify, because that doesn't seem to be consistent with what my understanding is of the Planning Commission's review. My understanding is that the Planning Commission's review would be limited to whether or not this sign is consistent with the general plan. And that's the only thing that they would be asked, not whether they like the design, not whether changes need to be made to the design, not whether the height is too tall for the site. The only question before the Planning Commission is a billboard on this site of this nature consistent with the general plan?
I think the city attorney wanted to respond to that, Councilmember.
I was waiting for staff, but if Lauren wants to respond.
either way, the requirement comes from the code, where in lieu of a development permit for this project, city projects go to the Planning Commission for a determination of consistency with the general plan. That is the scope of what they're looking at that meeting. I think what was discussed here tonight was that the public may use that as an opportunity to say their feelings and further comment about the project, but the Planning Commission's decision will be consistency with the general plan in lieu of a development permit.
Right, which means that the public's comments that they don't like the height, they don't like the design, the Planning Commission really has no purview with respect to those comments. All the Planning Commission can say is, yes, this is consistent with the general plan, or no. It can't direct that the project be redesigned in some way or that the height be lowered if the height that's proposed is consistent with the general plan. Is that correct?
May I add just one clarification, is that whatever the design comments that we get from this body tonight, we actually have to have the design changed to reflect those comments, and that changed design then goes before the Planning Commission, not the current one.
Well, I guess I would say, and I love our staff, and I really respect all the work you've done on so many projects and this one as well, but I really don't feel you're listening to our comments. And I'm concerned that you're going to treat our comments the same way you treated the comments of the public in response to the mitigated negative declaration. And I've said previously I had concerns about the plaza, I had concerns about the height, and I don't feel like any of those have been addressed. And I do want to respond to the mayor who said, you know, we allow tall walls on buildings. Those are existing buildings. And we're allowing some, this is talking about building something new that's 75 feet or 72 feet on the Sunset Strip. So I think there's a big difference between putting a tall wall on an existing building and building a new structure.
Okay, Councilmember Meister.
Yeah, I also wondered, were there any community meetings after we chose, this body chose this, council majority chose this project?
Yes, we held a community meeting upstairs in November of last year with renderings of the project and the entire project team and staff available. It was a fairly well-attended meeting, and we had one-on-one conversations with everyone who attended. We also attended a meeting of the WeHo Heights neighborhood group prior to that.
But were the comments positive, negative? I mean, what were you hearing? What you were hearing tonight, or were you hearing what you saw in the MND?
There were a mix. Certainly, we heard, as one of the speakers mentioned, that there were there were people certainly who have concerns about the project. We heard comments consistent with the comment letters that were received for the MND. We also heard positive comments or people that that were able to clarify misperceptions of the project. So that we could, we could provide appropriate information to them. But yes, we certainly heard, concerns.
I mean, because I guess what I would suggest is a working meeting with Orange Barrel and the community to mitigate these concerns about height, about mass, and anything else that was brought up. Because if it does just go to the Planning Commission meeting, and I do think that Planning Commission, we should have something in this. In whatever we adopt that says that there can be changes, based on public comment or, whatever comes out of the meeting, the community workshop, and the Planning Commission meeting before it comes back to us. Because, like I said before, all good intentions, if they're not in a resolution, it doesn't have to happen. I'd be okay about adopting the MND and saying the intention to move forward with Orange Barrel on this, to sign the contract, but I, like Councilmember Howman and Councilmember Horvath, feel that there needs to be more work on this project for the community to accept it. And I do also think that maybe we need to have something in here about the financial portion of it, that a certain percentage should be allocated to the Sunset Strip very specifically.
I've got Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico, Duran, and Highland.
When we approved the 105-foot tall billboard at the what's it called? The Roxy Rainbow. That wasn't on an existing building.
That's correct.
It was a standalone billboard that had a sort of a similar kind of experience of many years in the making, like this one, and the sky was falling in every direction, and the sky never fell. In fact, I think it's kind of another brilliant sort of iconic piece on our strip, and it saved 2 venues, entertainment venues. Certainly that we can have more process. I just think it's important that, you know, this billboard is almost 33 feet shorter than that one. I think, you know, the MND responded to the comments and found that there was no significant impact, and I think that's the case. The height of this billboard and the purpose of this billboard is to have as much billboardness as possible. And the benefit of this billboard is that over years, we'll get $14 to $20 million. Just this evening, we could identify 4 or 5 things that members of our public spoke about, their concerns, the seismic effort, social services, getting kids through high school. You know, there's all kinds of things that we could dedicate this to, and certainly if for some reason we need to dedicate a portion to the Sunset Strip, we have practically an entire arm of our city dedicated to energizing the Sunset Strip. We can certainly put more resources into that. I'm just sort of not sure how going back and poking at this gets a different answer. People who don't like that it's tall are going to say, I don't like it, it's tall. People who don't want a plaza are going to say, I don't like the plaza. People who don't want a billboard are going to say, I don't like billboards. They've had 2.5 years to tell us this. And in my mind, we have a planning commission meeting. People will come, the planning commissioners will listen, they will make a decision about whether, given all of the testimony, whether it comports with our general plan. And then it would be my preference that we had the Director of Community Development sign off on the design, but if we have to come back here and have another discussion of the design, in which I believe we will hear that some people don't like it, it's too tall, some people don't like the plaza because they don't want a plaza, and some people, you know, think they don't want shiny metal or a billboard. I'm not sure that 100% more effort is going to get us more than 1% better in any direction. That would be my concern, that we're drawing this out for another 6 months when that would just defers the amount of time before we start making income from this effort.
I just wanted one quick comment, and then I'll get to you, Councilmember Heilman. I just want to play out your scenario a bit. So it goes to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission makes a determination that the project is consistent with the general plan. But then it's got to come back here for an ultimate decision on design, on height, on all those other issues. And the public will have an opportunity to continue to weigh in for all the issues that the Mayor Pro Tem just identified. And then we'll actually have something. And the applicant seated here in the audience, he's listening. He's got to figure out how to get to 3 votes. So he's going to have to figure out how to incorporate the public comments at Planning Commission and at that future council meeting to try to put together at least 3 votes. So I still think there's enough process in here and enough consideration of various opinions for us to reach a resolution. I just think we need to move forward on the project. Now, I think, Councilmember Heilman, you had made are you requesting a substitute motion? Is that what you're doing?
Well, I was.
Okay.
I would propose a substitute motion that we approve the MND, that we direct staff to work with the applicant to reduce the size and mass of the proposal, that we direct the staff to revise the license agreement consistent with the reductions in the size, and that they bring that back to us, as well as bringing it to the Planning Commission for consistency determination and bringing it to the ACAC only for review of the arts component, which I think they were planning on doing anyway.
All right, there's a substitute motion on the floor. Is there a second to the substitute motion? It's been seconded by Meister. Then we now have a substitute motion on the floor. Is there a discussion on the substitute motion?
Yeah, I want to speak strongly against this motion. I appreciate Councilmember Heilman's effort again to reduce the size and scale of this, but I think we've voted on this twice at this size and scale, and I think this is exactly the wrong time to do this. It took them 2.5 years to work out this agreement, and I don't think that there's a way to proportionally take 10% off the height and take 10% off the dollars. I don't think it works that way, and I think this is a spectacularly bad idea to vote to change the size of this.
All right, Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you very much, Mayor. To be clear, I'm interested in seeing a project move forward. I think what we're trying to do is very exciting and innovative and trying to do something that's never been done before, which is why this process has been so complicated. I'm also very interested in working with Orange Barrel Media. In case that wasn't clear from my earlier comments, I think it's a testament to your commitment to this project that you've gone through 1.5 years of back and forth with the city. I think it's also a testament to our interest in working with you that we've engaged for 1.5 years on trying to bring something forward. So just to be very clear, that's sort of where I am in terms of a commitment moving forward. I'm not questioning that we should be moving forward with somebody else at this stage. But I do think that addressing the comments that have come forward from the community in some substantive way is very important. And I just don't think that the process that we have gone to at this date has afforded for those substantive comments to weigh in. And I don't think that designing from the dais here tonight is the way, is solving your problem or is solving the problems that people have raised. So that is my concern. I think that what we're trying to get at is something that people can be in agreement about. And I am very much of the understanding that art will evoke different responses. I work in advertising. Not this aspect of it, to be clear, but I work in advertising, so I understand sometimes we put ads out that people really hate and they respond. So I get that. But when we're talking about a community process and a structure that clearly is going to be a lot of investment and a longer term investment than we originally discussed, it's better to get it right, and especially to be working with the community to have them on board. We've certainly heard from many people tonight and gotten comment letters from many members of the community in support. There's also been substantive input that people are not happy about this. And I think that there are ways to address those comments in a more substantive way than has been done to date. I agree that the Arts Commission should not be designing the project or doing the work, say, of the Planning Commission. However, this is consistently billed as a piece of art with an art component in addition to being advertising piece. So why we would have a commission that is specifically dedicated to art not comment on this is beyond me. I think that having the Planning Commission comment and going through our normal process as we would with other projects, I don't understand why we can't do that here. And so I think I'm leaning more towards the process that Councilmember Heilman indicated in terms of having Planning Commission involvement and Arts Commission involvement, but I'm not interested in subjectively sort of throwing out what should or shouldn't happen with the design of a project. I think that's something that needs to be worked on. The comments that we've given tonight are something that need to be worked at the staff level.
Okay, I just want to say that I am strongly opposed to this substitute motion for the reasons stated by my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico. So, Councilmember Horvath, you are the swing vote. Whether you like it or not, you are now in the swing seat. So I'm going to ask the city clerk to please clear the motion that was made by Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico and seconded by me. Actually, you need to clear it. Okay, you've cleared it, and now we have a substitute motion on the floor. made by Councilmember Heilman and Councilmember Meister. Any further clarification needed on the substitute motion?
Is there a way that both versions can be presented?
Make a substitute motion. If you don't, I will. I'd like to make a substitute motion.
All right, there's now a third substitute motion.
Can we have a conversation? I would like to ask the maker of the motion, or someone can offer a substitute, I suppose, but since I'm in the middle, I get the microphone. So I would like to offer that that we direct staff to do both. We have a current proposal that it seems half the council is interested in, and I think there's an interest in also seeing a project that is reduced in size and scale that reflects some of the comments that from the council tonight, as well as comments from the community. And it has happened in the past that we have had projects proposed with an alternative to consider and have both of those considered.
Okay, so as I understand, are you making a substitute motion, Councilmember Horvath? If you're
I would consider that a friendly amendment to my substitute motion, that we ask staff to work with the applicant and bring both the current iteration as well as a revised iteration back to the council.
Okay.
Yes.
Where is it going first? Back here to us or to Planning and ACAC first?
I think we need to get input from the Planning Commission.
What about ACAC? Before us or after?
Well, I think to get three votes, I think we need to have input from ACAC.
Okay, is that acceptable to the seconder of the motion? Yes. Okay, there's now a substitute motion as amended. Everybody following the process? All right, all those in favor indicate with an aye. Any opposed with a nay? Motion passes 3-2 with Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico and Duran voting no. Okay, thank you staff and thank you everybody who came tonight for that discussion. Colleagues, we have 2 consent items that have been pulled. Can we just jam through or do you wish to take a break? Everybody okay to keep going? Okay, everyone's okay to keep going. We will keep going. Item 2K was pulled for discussion. That's the Smart City Public Safety Pilot Project update. Oh, and by the way, staff, thank you, everybody, all the staff that just did that. So while we switch chairs, I think Councilmember Horvath pulled this for discussion. It doesn't look like there's any speakers. Do you want to make your comments, Councilmember Horvath?
I'm happy to jump into comments if that's if that moves things along. First, I'll start with the questions that I had around the residential pilot. On page 4 of the report, it says that, and maybe I'll wait till Kristen gets up here because I think she's going to respond to this. The 2 questions I had were, right now it's envisioned as a pilot program for the east side. Should we find success with this program, is it possible that we could expand it citywide? This is the residential program.
Go ahead. Sure. Hi, Francisco Contreras, Innovation Manager. So yeah, the whole intent of going through this exercise was for it to be a pilot. We did request the funding for just a limited pilot program. If it's successful, we will come back with recommendations for the council for further consideration.
Great, and can you, the other question I had on that piece was, can you please explain to me the eligibility requirement regarding line of sight for the public, that has to include a public right-of-way but not courtyards? I mean, are you saying we can't, no common area can be filmed?
So we wanted that all of the cameras have a line of sight to the public right-of-way. What we didn't want was for cameras to be directed just towards internal courtyards, where they're not actually facing the sidewalk or the public right-of-way. And we did that because we wanted to make a kind of sufficient public benefit argument. Since we are providing a subsidy, we wanted to make sure that we were actually providing a benefit to all the community, not just a private individual homeowner.
I get that intention. I just believe that there may be some communal spaces that are causes for safety concern, and that's why some people might want to have cameras in some of those spaces. So I think so long as the eligibility requirements, accommodate that kind of concern. I know, there are buildings that have people sleeping on the side of them, and that wouldn't necessarily be considered to anyone's benefit. It's more of a community area, but kind of seeing, in some of those tucked away spaces and buildings, there may be a reason why people might want to catch some of, capture activity in some of those areas. So that's...
I can speak to that briefly because we had spoken about this, and the intention was to make sure that there was sufficient public benefit. So I think we can include some flexibility for safety concerns in larger courtyards. It wasn't meant to exclude that, just to ensure that this is a public benefit and not just giving a subsidy to specific individuals.
Right, that's the clarity I'm looking for, so I appreciate that. The greater issue I have is the last time we had this conversation, we were told that by this time the pilot program would be up and running in the city. The pilot program is not up and running in the city, and that is beyond frustrating and disappointing. The pilot program that is outlined in this report is for less amount of time than it took to even get us to this point, which is even more frustrating. And it just doesn't feel like this is a priority. I don't know if it's not a priority for staff or why it's not moving forward, but I specifically asked at the last council meeting where we discussed this, when would we be up and running? And it was your date that you offered, and we're still not there. I just don't understand what it's gonna take for these cameras to be up. This is a safety concern that has been articulated for over, I don't know how many years now, and we're still looking at pilot programs when we know how to put up, I mean, it's not rocket science on how to put up safety cameras for communities. It's happened in countless cities around the world. So I just don't understand what the holdup is and why we're dragging our feet and making this happen.
Sure. So our scheduled pilot start date has always been July of 2018, so we still have a couple of weeks left. And in the meantime, we've actually been able to get and finalize one of the contracts with one of our 3 selected vendors. So Radius AI is a vendor that we have almost about to execute the contract. So they are proposing to install cameras at the intersection of Santa Monica and Robertson and Santa Monica and Vicente by the end of this month. Additionally, we have been in contract negotiations with Verizon and Konica Minolta, which are 2 very large multinational corporations that actually have really stringent terms and conditions with regards to the contract that they're going to enter in with the city. So we've been going back and forth with review with our legal team and our finance team, and as well as their legal teams. And because they are very bureaucratic, large organizations, their turnaround time is actually very, very long. So we were very ambitious with trying to get all of these vendors under contract in 1 month. We're very close, and I think we just need a couple of extra weeks to get just Verizon and Konica Minolta executed. With that being said, we've done multiple site visits with all of the different vendors. So they've been out and just learning the complexities of what we have available with regards to infrastructure, because we don't necessarily have the required infrastructure in place to do the full implementation. We have it now that we've worked with both of our engineering and IT divisions. So we are basically ready to go. We're really just waiting for the signatures on the contract so that they can install their equipment.
We waited for signatures for an MET team for 2 years from the county. There's nothing in this report. I'm going to support this work because it's something I've been supporting since 2015, but there's nothing that gives me confidence that this is going to be done in a short order. It was your words at the last meeting that cameras would be up and running by July 1. They're not. And so I'm very frustrated, and I'm not hearing from you any sort of definitive commitment that they are going to be up and running this month. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, and I apologize. I never mentioned July 1. I've always mentioned July 2018 as the date, and we are really trying our hardest to get there. It's just the contract negotiations with our team and with their team have just taken a lot longer than expected.
All right, we have Councilmember Meister and then myself.
Yeah, I just wondered, can we add Ogden Owls to this list on the residential, Ogden Owls, you have the SOFO Neighborhood Watch and WeHo and Plummer Park and Sierra Bonita, and Ogden Owls is also on the east side, and they've just started out and they've become very active, and I think they would really benefit from being part of this pilot program for the Ring.
Sure.
Great, and I just want to say I'm really excited about the partnership with Ring. I have one of those Ring doorbells, and it really is fantastic. I mean, you set the distance, you can really keep you can have eyes to the street if you want to, or you can shut it off. So anyway, it's great.
Okay, I'll call on myself. I'd like to actually move the item as presented, if there's a seconder. Thank you. Yes, as amended by Councilmember Meister. I just want to state that while I initially voted no on this because I don't like cameras in public places for a whole lot of privacy reasons, I wanted to at least commend you for expanding this into residential neighborhoods, because I think that's something that a lot of the neighborhoods would appreciate, having those eyes in their neighborhoods and in their places. So I appreciate the extra efforts and the extra process that you went through to expand the pilot from beyond the commercial areas into the residential neighborhoods. So I'll say that. Any further discussion? Are you pressing your button, Mayor Pro Tem? No, you're ready to vote. Okay. Motion's been moved and seconded with the amendment to add Ogden. All those in favor indicate with an aye. Any opposed with a nay? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to item 2U, which is the Code of Ethics for Consultants, Contractors, and Service on Nonprofit Boards of Directors. It doesn't appear that we have any speakers, and Councilmember Heilman, I think you pulled this matter for discussion.
Yes, I pulled it for discussion because I don't think it's really necessary. I think city consultants and contractors, I don't think it is our business to create a code of ethics for them. I think it is our job to regulate them. And if we believe that there are appropriate regulations, we should bring forth those regulations. I think the whole idea of us doing something about elected officials serving on the boards of nonprofits, I think it too is unnecessary. We, I think, have been benefited actually by the service of council members past and present on various community organizations and nonprofits. We already have code provisions that provide that if you are on a nonprofit and there's a matter involving that nonprofit before the city, you have to recuse yourself. So I think this is unnecessary work, and I don't support it.
Thank you. I just want to add, because I think part of this item is probably directed at me, because I think I serve on a few boards. Service on board of directors by elected officials. I think the problem comes up when an elected official is on a board where a spouse or a family member is being compensated by that organization. There's an obvious conflict. The boards that I serve on, NALEO, the Gay Men's Chorus, the Los Angeles, and the Van Ness Recovery Board. All of our board members, none of us receive compensation. We're not a compensated board. None of us have any family members who work for the organization. And if anything, it's grueling, the amount of hours that we have to spend on fundraising for the organization and managing the organization and its staff. And it's a way to be of service. And ultimately, all these organizations end up serving our residents. So I think that I understand the intent, but as Councilmember Heilman stated, whenever there's an item, it's very rare, where the chorus gets funding or the Van Ness Recovery House gets funding, I do make that disclosure. But often it's these organizations, if they get any funding from the city, it's in a long list of organizations that our Human Services Commission or our ACAC makes recommendations. So I don't think it's necessary either, but so I intend to vote no for the reasons that Councilmember Heilman stated.
Okay, and I'll just say that, first of all, not directed towards anyone. The idea is that we have an independent body that's an ethics reform task force, and my thought was that they would look at what other cities are doing in terms of standardizing a code of ethics for consultants and contractors if it is done in other cities. I mean, that's something they can come back to us on. I have seen situations here where I thought there might be a conflict of interest if a company worked on an RFP and then they actually respond to the RFP. So I'd like to know what other cities do about that. And regarding the serving on boards, again, it wasn't to say that you couldn't do that. It was to see what other cities are doing and how they maybe handle different situations if there's a best practices. So that was the idea behind it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. No one's made a motion yet, but.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the item, and we'll
Okay.
see what happens.
All right.
I'll second the motion, but I'm not convinced about any of it, except I guess I would say that since we're in a period now in which no council member is working for an organization that receives money from the city, that we go back and consider the 1994 resolution of the city establishing the nonprofit shall not be eligible to receive city grants if any member of the city council works for that agency. I think that was clearly something that in 2008 was done, but I think since nobody here works for a nonprofit, that might be something that we should put back in place. So for that reason, I'm going to second this and vote yes. But I, like my colleagues on my right and left, I'm not sure we need a code of ethics. I don't really actually think being on a nonprofit board, I think that's actually, kind of upstanding, John, upstanding, to sort of commit yourself to helping a nonprofit succeed. So for that reason, I would like this looked at, and then I would also read the staff report and make a decision about those other items if it comes back.
All right, Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you. If Councilmember D'Amico, if your comments about that policy were direction to the ethics task force to look into, okay. I just wanted to be clear because that wasn't necessarily part of the recommendations here. So as long as it's for the ethics reform task force to research, I think maybe what I'm hearing from my colleagues is a concern about precluding council members from participating in boards. But if we removed that from the list of options and just looked at policies other jurisdictions have regarding elected officials serving on boards and whether there are guidelines about how people serve on boards, we're not precluding anyone from serving, but just are there options around how people serve? I'm certainly open to considering those. I don't have a predetermined outcome on either of these options. I'm always happy to consider options, but I think I'm actually more interested in recommendation 1 and what city consultants and contractors. I know that there are many cities that have guidelines around how they act within City Hall, so and while conducting business in the city. So I'm supportive of the Ethics Reform Task Force moving forward with these recommendations. If you're open to the friendly amendment to remove precluding council members from serving on the board.
It didn't. It actually said research policies on service on nonprofit board of directors.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so there was nothing in there that specified that that you'd be precluded from serving on a board. It was just about best policy, best practices.
And what I'm asking is if you would be willing to specifically call that out that this isn't about precluding participation, but researching how other cities structure guidelines for their council members to participate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is that acceptable to the seconder of the motion? All right.
I'm not sure what that is 100%, but yes.
Okay.
We're going to make clear we're not doing what we said we're not doing.
Okay. I know it's 9:30. We're all getting punchy and tired. So okay. All right. I think it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye. Motion passes 3-2 with Heilman and Duran voting no. Okay, that concludes our agenda. Are there any other additional public comments, Yvonne? No, and there's no additional council member comments. So we are adjourned until Monday, August the 6th. Thank you.
Great job, man.